Good morning. I'm so glad you guys joined us this morning. This morning I want to look at scripture here in Matthew here. Yesterday, Brian talked about how Jesus curses the fig tree, and today we're going to talk about what's going on in Jesus' life on Tuesday. Now, Jesus is really concerned today. He's fully human, right? And so he has all these emotions every human is having. Have you ever been anxious about something? Not because of what's going to happen to you, but because of the people that you care about, the people that you love, what's going to happen with them. And so I feel like Tuesday, Jesus is really anxious about what's going to happen with his disciples next. We heard about the fig tree and how that fig had all those leaves but no fruit, and how Jesus cursed it because he was so mad at it. And today we see Jesus, he's at the temple right now on Tuesday. And he has the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the chief priests, the elders of the law, and they're coming to him to trick him. They want him to screw up and say something that he doesn't, so they can get him for blasphemy, because they want him to say that he is God. And so they're really out to get him, and Jesus knows what's going on. And so in Matthew chapter 21 here, he talks about how the Pharisees and Sadducees ask him, by whose authority do you have to do these things? And these things are talking about yesterday when Jesus went into the temples and threw the money change tables over and everything like that, got angry at everybody. They're asking him, who gave you these authorities to do these things? And they want him to say, because he's God. But he answers very intelligently. He says, by the authority of John the Baptist. And what authority does John the Baptist have? And then they know that if they answer by heaven, that he's going to be in the right. And if they answer by men, then everybody else is going to get mad at him. And so they decide, we don't know. That's what they said to Jesus. And Jesus is really frustrated today. He knows it's coming closer. He knows they're plotting against him. They're trying to get inches and inches closer. And that night, Jesus goes to the Mount of Olives and he talks with his disciples. And Jesus is really scared what they're going to be like after he leaves. He knows the time is coming, and he wants them to be prepared. The fig tree is kind of an illustration that was before of people who are wicked will look like they're good. And he starts off with this other illustration where he talks about people who have oil lamps. So in Matthew 25, he talks about 10 virgins who all went out to meet the bridegroom. 10 of them having oil lamps, but 5 of them were wise and they took oil for the lamps. 5 of them did not. And they waited a while for the bridegroom, and they got drowsy and they fell asleep. And then eventually around midnight, he says, they awoke and they says, wake up, the bridegroom is coming. And 5 who did not take oil for the lamps got worried and says, give us some oil for our lamps went out. See, Jesus told this parable, he says, because there are going to be people who look like you and try to act like you, but they have no faith. Keep your faith. He is worried about his disciples' faith. He has groomed them. He's been with them for so many years, and he's caring about them. Jesus is anxious about what they're going to be like after, and he's anxious about us as well. During this whole Passion Week, we think of the life of Christ and what's going on. But at that same time, I think about how he cared for his disciples is how much he cares for us. A lot of times people think about this passage as the second coming of Christ, and I think how much Jesus cares for me. He wants me to be ready. He wants me to be ready for his second coming. And as we take this week in Passion Week, of Holy Week, and think about what Jesus is doing with his disciples, put yourself in that place. Think about how Jesus cares so much for you during this time of turmoil that he's going through. So today, reflect on these words. Reflect through Matthew 25. And think about how much Jesus cares for you. We miss you, we're praying for you, and we hope this week changes your life and your journey with Christ.